Hi, welcome back to Film Story Recap. Today I am going to explain an action thriller film called Plane. The movie starts with Brody Torrance, who is late for his flight, talking to his daughter, who is looking forward to seeing her father on New Year's Eve. Brody works as a pilot for Trailblazer Airlines. When he and his co-pilot, Samuel Dele, are stationed inside the flight leaving Singapore, they are informed that they will have to push their flight through a possible storm. When Brody mentions that it will be difficult, he is told to stick to the same route because the flight only has 14 passengers. The decision to take the shorter route would result in additional fuel savings for the airline. This is Bonnie, the chief flight attendant, informs Brody that he is needed to meet Officer Shellback. The officer informs Brody that they are transporting a killer/former French Foreign Legion soldier named Louis Gaspard. One of the 14 passengers is a convicted murderer, Louis Gaspard, who was charged with homicide 15 years ago, and Brody has no choice but to let him on board. The flight crew departs after all passengers have boarded and safety instructions have been issued. As the plane prepares to take off, we see other passengers, including young social media influencers and a snooty businessman. Brody and Dele talk in the air, with Brody mentioning his wife's death years before. The plane encounters heavy turbulence as it passes over the South China Sea during the storm. The storm worsens, causing damage to the plane, and Brody is injured in the commotion. Shellback and an air hostess named Isabella get up to pick up his phone and the air hostess gets up to put him back in his seat. They both die during the landing. Brody and Dele must manage control without communications and radar, bringing it to a more secure balance. Because the damage is too severe, Brody and Dele, trusting his instincts, discover they are somewhere near Manila. However, they still need to find a landing area. Brody is also confident that they will arrive in Manila on time thanks to the situation's navigation, so he needs to crash land the plane on the water and asks his chief steward to make the announcement he never thought he'd have to make in his life. However, he notices a dense forest and decides to fly the plane based on wind speed. Brody spots a road and lands the plane there. Once everything settles, Brody has the passengers get out of the plane. He and Dele learn they are on the Jolo Island, in New York City. At Trailblazer's HQ, the board of directors is met by their crisis manager, Scarsdale, to try and locate the plane and passengers. Brody tries to keep Louis away and secured from the other passengers due to his violent history. Brody works with Dele and Bonnie to keep the passengers calm and to find a way to call for help. Terry, in charge of the Trailblazer headquarters in New York, on the other hand, summons David Scarsdale, a crisis management expert. David analyzes everything and informs Terry that he will need to approach various people in higher positions for personal favors, as this case will necessitate having the upper hand for better negotiations. A private advance crew is also hired to help rescue the people, and David contacts Shellback, who gathers his team to help. Dele quickly realizes they have arrived on Jolo Island, which is located in the southwest Philippines. The island is notorious for being a haven for extremists and criminals who cause trouble for their own gain. Brody allows Gaspard to join him in his search for assistance in order to keep him away from his other passengers. Brody is trying to figure out how to get off the island when he notices Gaspard has vanished. Thinking the convict has escaped, he seeks out a radio station in the hopes of connecting with someone back home. Soon after, he comes across an abandoned facility and a broken radio phone. He quickly fixes it and dials Trailblazer Airlines customer service number. However, he is dismissed by the operator because they have received numerous crank calls about the same issue since the morning. Desperate for assistance, he finally dials his daughter's number. When the call is answered, he instructs her to contact someone at the headquarters to request assistance. However, a rookie militant attacks him, and the phone call is cut off. When the militant attempts to strangle Brody, Gaspard steps in and shoots him. When Gaspard saves Brody, they gradually gain each other's trust. At the same time, while Brody is looking for a radio/phone to contact the Trailblazers rescue team, Dele is attempting to figure out the fried avionics batteries. Meanwhile, a local from the island notices the passengers and reports their location to the leader, Dr. Junmar. Junmar dispatches his men to capture all of the passengers as hostages. Gunshots are heard as Gaspard and Brody return from the facility. Brody tries to run after them, but Gaspard stops him, saying he will be killed if he does. They would have to think clearly and devise a strategy. The extremists then arrest all of the passengers, leaving behind the dead bodies of a couple who attempted to outrun them. When the militants kidnap everyone on a bus, Brody and Gaspard attack a local man who examines the passengers' belongings. They also learn that Junmar has taken everyone to a village called Danjulit. From there, they will be taken to the sea. Brody decides to pursue them, leaving a note on his uniform shirt to help the rescue team figure out where they're all. Gaspard and Brody arrive at the village, which is guarded by armed men. They quickly locate the warehouse where all of the passengers are being held as hostages. While Brody searches for other men, Gasper murders the man who is guarding the cell. Brody unlocks the gate, saves his remaining passengers, and transports them to the bus. One of the passengers knows how to ride the bus, so Brody instructs Gasper to look after all of them while he distracts Tata Junmar from catching the bus and fleeing because he knows the leader will not kill because he would be more beneficial to them in extorting money from the government. So he goes to the militants and asks Junmar to meet him there. Brody, as the plane's captain, was doing everything he could to protect his passengers. As his men beat him to the ground, he surrenders to Junmar. Just as Junmar is about to take him, one of the militants is shot by Shellback, who saves Brody in time. Shellback drives Brody to the bus and informs him that the rescue team will only be able to reach the island in 24 hours. Brody must devise a strategy now that they are on their own. Brody decides to go to where he landed the plane because they don't have a plan or the time. When they arrive at the destination, Brody goes to the plane and discovers that Dele has repaired the fried avionics. It gives him hope, and he begins working on repairing the power brakes. Meanwhile, he asks Shellback and Gasper to buy him time from the armed forces who are out to kill them. Gasper informs Brody that he will not board the plane because he does not want to be convicted and because the public does not know the entire story. After thanking Gasper for all his help in getting the passengers safely back to the plane, Brody gets inside the aircraft along with Dele and tries to take off. When they are about to turn the plane, Junmar and his men reach the spot with lots of artilleries and strike with full force. Shellback and Gasper ensure that the plane safely makes its turn towards the runway, a dirt road in the middle of the dense forest, without getting the engines or the fuel tank getting shot. Meanwhile, Gasper steals the emergency fund while refiling his gun. Shellback sharply looks at him but doesn't say anything and boards the flight just in time. There is gunfire all around, and a passenger gets hit on the leg. Taking a leap of faith, Brody successfully takes off from Jolo Island. However, the plane is low on fuel and loses one of the engines. Dele and Brody also get their comms back on and get connected to the headquarters, where Terry is not pleased with the pilot's blind decision. However, David believes in Brody and asks him to follow his instincts. A navigation expert is called in who helps the pilot to navigate the aircraft for an emergency landing at the nearest place. Despite the adversities, Brody lands Trailblazer 119 safely at the nearest airport on Saucy Island. Everyone congratulates him for saving their life as he sits back and tries to reminisce about everything that happened on the dangerous island. Soon the medical team and the rescue team arrive and tend to everyone. Brody calls his daughter and tells him he will make it to New Year's Eve to meet her. The film ends at that point, showing life is full of unpredictable moments and that one should live minute by minute to the fullest. If you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, and share it with your friends. For more like this, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.